As usual, I started the day with light steps and full enthusiasm. The fresh air of the countryside greeted me as I stepped out, carrying a small sack and my favorite hat. Today I continued the routine that has become part of my life, hunting snails to feed my beloved ducks. The rice fields where I was looking for snails have been harvested, leaving behind dry stalks of rice standing upright as if greeting me. The sky was still golden orange, and a thin mist hung sweetly above the embankment. The sound of trickling water in the rice field ditch became the music that accompanied my steps. I walked along the embankment with a cheerful heart. Occasionally sparrows flew around me, probably still looking for the remains of leftover rice. Among the piles of straw, I began to observe carefully. I knew that small snails would appear between the gaps in the soil and scattered leaves. As usual, I didn't have to wait long. One by one, the snails emerged slowly, moving slowly with their shiny brown shells. I smiled, a simple joy that never failed to appear every time I hunted snails. The snails were like old friends who always waited for me in the same rice field. I was in no hurry. There was something beautiful in this simplicity, a silence that was only occasionally disturbed by the sound of rustling leaves or the chirping of birds flying high. I walked along each row of straw, my eyes tracing every curve of the ground, looking for signs of life. Unconsciously, my hands had picked up one by one the snails that I found, holding them carefully so as not to damage their fragile shells. It felt like finding treasure in every corner of the rice field. My steps were a little heavy because my feet were often buried in mud. I explored every corner of the rice field while occasionally bending down to pick up small snails hiding behind the mud. There was a sense of satisfaction every time I found one, like finding a small hidden treasure. The mud that stuck to my feet didn't irritate me, instead it made me feel closer to this land, to nature that always faithfully gives. Every now and then I stopped for a moment, looking at the vast expanse of rice fields, listening to the peaceful sounds of nature. Far away, I saw other farmers who were also starting their activities, waving their hands while smiling. I responded enthusiastically, feeling like I was part of the irreplaceable morning harmony. My hands and sacks were starting to fill up, but my spirit was still burning. I didn't realize the sun was starting to rise, warming my body and making the dew slowly disappear. My ducks at home would definitely be happy today, I thought, because their favorite food was ready. And I continued hunting for snails this morning because there were still many snails visible in every corner of this rice field. It would be a shame if I didn't take them, and I also still wanted to sweat a lot from my body. Let it be if later the clothes I wear are soaked with my sweat. With this snail hunting activity, my body seemed to be invited to dance on the wet ground that was already familiar to me. Every step along the embankment, every squat and stand back up, all made sweat slowly come out of the pores. But that's where the pleasure is, sweat that flows not because of the burden, but because of the natural movement that blends with nature, with the rhythm of the morning that soothes the heart. There was no traffic noise, no deadline pressure or ever bright screens, just me, the vast rice fields, and the small sounds of living nature. I walked patiently, bending carefully, sometimes laughing to myself when the snail I thought was big turned out to be just an empty shell. But that was also an entertainment in itself. In the silence and repetitive movements, my body worked without any force. My breath became longer, my steps lighter, and slowly, my body felt fitter. I believe that sweating like this is a form of gratitude. Nature gave me a place to move freely, and my body responded well. And there is a happiness that cannot be exchanged for money, because from the results of this hard work, I can feed my ducks without having to reduce the money in my wallet. Natural feed that I get directly from nature, without having to buy it. It feels like getting two benefits at once, a healthier body and the needs of livestock that are met. Every time my sack starts to fill up, I feel a simple but deep satisfaction. I imagine my ducks later fighting over snails with their typical noisy voices. That is a small form of today's success, no need for cheers or recognition from anyone. For others, this activity may seem mundane, even tiring. But for me, snail hunting is more than just looking for food. It is a way to stay connected to nature, maintain the rhythm of the body, and celebrate life in the most down-to-earth way. Beneath the mud and sweat, there is honest happiness, and that is more than enough. And so my morning passed, not with hustle and bustle, but with simple happiness that cannot be bought, being friends with nature, walking on the ground I have trodden since childhood, and living life in the most honest way.